Hello, hello. This is Mickey Wright with Beauty Superstars Talk, and I want to welcome you to your backstage pass with experts in beauty. So, thanks so much for joining us. It was a cool, crisp morning, and I walked anxiously into an accountant's office, probably for the first time as a business owner. He sat me down and assured me that everything was going to be okay. And I'll never forget, he gave me this list of different documents that he wanted me to bring back to him. But at the end of it, he said, and bring every piece of unopened mail, especially from the IRS. And my eyes got really big. And I was in my mind saying, like, how do you know I have unopened mail? And have you been spying on me? And so, if you're like I was, burying your head in the sand around your numbers and the money going on in your business, then you are absolutely in the right place. And even if you are a seasoned pro, I'm going to bet that you're going to pick up a thing or two from my guest today. She has no doubt heard and seen it all when it comes to businesses and their finances. Her name is Larcina Carrington Wynn, and she is the president and founding member of Carrington Financial Services, LLC. For more than 30 years, she's offered accounting and bookkeeping services, as well as business consulting to small business owners, individuals, high net worth entertainers and athletes, as well as not for profit and membership organizations like the National Beauty Culturist League. Larcenia, we are so honored to have you here today. So,
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yes, yes. It's like you have such an amazing background, so I can't wait to dig right into everything.
Yes.
And I know as a business coach myself, I find that a lot of small business owners really don't understand that business is run by the numbers and that those numbers actually tell a story. So tell us, what's been your experience?
So, working with many salon owners over the years, I find that they're more enthusiastic about the business versus the business side of the business. And so, with that, they usually don't come to me until they're in trouble. And
Mm,
what I'm saying to them is most of the time is we could talk about this before you get started. It's really okay. And
uh-huh.
so, as a result of that, we have individuals who get into the business, they start doing the hair, and then they realize that they don't have any money.
Mm,
What I
mhm,
mean by that is that they realize that, okay, I just serviced 10 people and I can't pay my rent, or, where's my paycheck? And so those reality checks start coming in right after they have been in business for a little bit. So, they might have started somewhere else, like at home, and really not have had like a shop or something of that nature. And
mhm.
so now, when they've done so well in their whatever space that they had, they're now moved into a space, but they didn't actually figure out how much that was going to really cost them. So they had no idea about, cost averaging, have no idea on, geez, I need to service at least 20 people a day in order to pay the rent. I need to service that many more people so I can pay the light bill, and so on and so forth. So in that manner, I'm usually digging someone out of a hole because they've really had not thought out the business part of it.
Right.
And it's so typical because in the beauty business that I'm seeing, people are really, really good at what they do, but
Mhm.
not the numbers. That's a part of it. And so I've been really able to help a lot of people be able to kind of pull themselves out of that hole and understand that, you know, that you have to deal with this business side of the business. It has nothing to do with how well you are. And then that's when you start building a team. You're good at doing, what you do as far as the business is concerned, understanding your products. Hire your team to come in and help you, which is your accountant, sometimes a lawyer, so that way you can understand the structure, because at the end of the day, we want you to stay in business.
Right.
And what we really want to help people press towards is their legacy. Folks have these wonderful, wonderful businesses that they've done. They build up these beautiful clientels, but then they don't, after they can't do it anymore, who does it? And
Right.
a lot of it has to do with not having the finances to pass it on, or even the just the succession planning. For whatever reason, in that industry, they just don't really get to know the business side of things.
Right.
So. I've been able to help. I hope I have anyway.
Yes, yes. It's like we're definitely creative beings and we think it's all about the hair, but it really is, once we're, like you say, opening a space and actually, putting our shingle out, that we really have to look at the whole thing a lot differently.
Hmm.
So, obviously, when we get into that hole, it's like we need help to get out.
Yes.
But if there is someone watching right now who is just getting started, just
Yes.
has that idea in their head, what would you say would be kind of the first steps to avoid landing in the hole?
Right. So just visiting with an accountant. Majority of the accountants actually do it pro bono or a free consultation. It doesn't hurt to talk to someone. If you're in a city where they have business development programs, or if you have a SCORE, which is retired individuals who've been in business like the business you've done, which is free. But it's just more about doing a little bit more investigating about what it takes to be in business. Just step back a second. This is something that you're going to be dealing with lifetime. So just give it a few more minutes to be able to kind of investigate what does it take to really be successful in this. And I don't think people get into business not to be successful, but I think they just need the steps to just let's step back for a second. Okay, what does it mean to do this? Not just me doing here because I really like it and I'm really good at it, but I want to build a business with that. And what does it take to do that? So just minimally sitting down with an accountant, or even hanging out with other business owners, other folk who actually have been doing this, just to say, what does it take to do this? What does it really take? And then I think that, having that kind of opportunity, it's going to be much less stress and a lot more legacy building. I think we'll have if we're allowing individuals to just take a little bit to talk about it.
Right, right. And I think what you were saying with, working or talking to other business owners, that kind of mentorship piece is something that can be really huge, because a lot of us, maybe going into this industry or into any business as kind of like the first generation of business owners in our family.
Right.
So we don't have those examples to look to.
Mhm.
Yeah. So bridging those, making those connections. And how do we get over kind of the fear factor of going in to talk about our numbers?
Right. So my thing is the way that I work with clients, I never allow the relationship to be one-sided. And what I mean by that is I don't want anyone to be totally reliant on me to know their numbers. No, that's the wrong thing to do. That's how people lose their business. That's how they get in tax trouble. That's how they get, taken by, someone who's not really forthright, and having their best interest. So I want you to know, I want you to understand how to read a financial statement. I want you to know your numbers better than I do. And that doesn't mean that you have to do the work, but at least meet with me on a regular basis. I do a lot of taxes for people. It was one of my bigger side of my business. So I usually see most of the salon owners or any of my business owners. I might only see them when it's time to prepare their taxes. That's not good for me. And I try to explain to many of them, listen, don't call me your accountant, because an accountant works with you on a regular basis. A tax preparer sees you once a year. And if we're able to work together on a monthly basis, then the end of the year won't be so scary. The taxes, it seems to be the biggest scare factor in being in business, period. And all because you don't know. All because you weren't able to spend, I call it spend time with your money. You didn't spend time with your money all this time. And so now, our uncle was going to come and get you now because, you felt you made a whole lot, but in actuality, you didn't, because you weren't spending time to understand on how to know what I took in, what did you have to spend out? And then what is that consequence, or what does that mean for the tax time of the year? So you really want to be able to just spend time. I remember when you talk about other businesses, a nonprofit organization, one of my most favorite gentlemen, he's no longer here with us, but he had a nonprofit organization, and it was over $500,000 or so of funds going through. That gentleman knew every dime. He can tell me everything, every penny, and never touched the computer. Never touch the computer. Never touch my software. Used to aggravate me, to tell you the truth. Kath. Wait a minute, come on now. But at the end of the day, he was always someone that taught me, just by being a client, that, the responsibility he was responsible for the business. So he said there was nothing that was going to be in that computer or anywhere in that organization that he didn't know about.
Right.
And that's what I really appreciate. And you can understand why people should do that. I mean, life is a lot less stress when you're able to kind of know what you're dealing with, because money is a scary thing. It's personal, and you're just going along with life, not knowing. And that, could you imagine how that would mess with creativity, because you're worried about whether you got money to open that door the next day. So let's remove that process and just kind of spend time, hire you a team, go in after and work with people that are going to work with you, because it's a team effort. I'm good at what I do, and you go, look, I just left my stylist, okay, and I cannot do her job.
Okay.
Respect. So we all have to work together.
Yeah, yeah. I like that you were talking about the difference, like between a bookkeeper and accountant, or or a tax preparer. So tell us a little bit more about, like, if we were going to meet on a monthly basis, what would we be meeting for? What would we be doing, or what should we need to bring to you?
Right. So there's different options that we can kind of manage a business wherever your comfort level is. I mean, some people don't want to deal with software, computerized software. They like writing on the paper, whichever way is comfortable for that particular client. So when we meet, we're organizing your receipts. We're talking with you about how much you spent on certain areas. We're talking about how well did you do this month as far as revenue is concerned. Where was the shortfall? What is your cash flow like? What's happening? Okay, say for instance, Christmas time might be a more lucrative time, versus the summertime. Folks are hanging out. They don't really want to come in and get their hair done at that point. So understanding your peaks and valleys. And because actually, any business is a hustle. So now if I know that my month of low income coming in is, I'm just going to say July, then I know what I have to do to compensate for that, because now I'm being more proactive by hanging out with my accountant and saying, okay, this is where we were last year, and this is what's going on, around us. This is where our numbers have to be. I have to service at least, 10 more people, in order to meet these bills this month. And so now what is my strategy to do that? So now, do I need to advertise? Is there a tournament coming up so I can put my ad in a souvenir booklet, or is there, a place where I can post up some flyers, or whatever the strategy is going to be, but allow for me to be more proactive around having my business be a little bit more successful. So that's what we tend to talk about each month. Like, where are you? What have you done? What's next month going to look like? What do you plan on the end of the year? Are you going to have to pay taxes? Because more than likely, if you're making money, you're going to pay some taxes. And so what are those strategies to defer that, or what are those strategies to make sure that you're okay when we do file those taxes at the end of the year?
Yes. Wow. It's like, that's phenomenal. I think that planning piece is so key. When we talk about the numbers telling the story, it's like they're telling us, it's like, hey, this is a slower time, and how can you plan in advance to make it not a slower time?
Right, for sure, for sure. And even with that, I mean, you have to live too. So that has to be part of the equation. Money coming in, and you having to pay not only the facility that you're renting or owning expenses, but you're in business because you're trying to support your family as well. So with that, where we're going to get the money from? The rent for this place is due, and rent at home is due. So where, I know my mama used to say you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. So what are we going to do here? So it helps with that. It helps to be able to balance the business and the home front, to know exactly what you have to do in order to take care of the family. Because not everybody is two home family, income family is how you say it. It might just be you, with the lead of bringing this revenue into the home. So how do we balance out all of that? And so you do a much better job of understanding that, if you understand how your revenue is flowing.
Yeah, yeah. I know a lot of people are excited about opening up a suite of their own, a salon suite.
Mm,
And one of the things that, I see people looking at is just like, oh, I can afford the rent there.
right.
They're not adding in any other expenses that go along with it. And like you said, the home expenses have to be added to
Mhm.
what needs to come in as well.
Yes, yes. And even when, if we talk about that a little bit, um, one thing that that people don't do is sit down and understand. I know we're going to talk about this later. Understanding what their break-even points are.
Hmm.
You have to know what it takes to run this business. And you need to understand that, okay, if and I may not, then don't quote me on, the process of doing hair or anything of that nature, but it may take, you know, when Larcina comes in the door, the type of hairstyle that she has, it may take 6 shampoos and two conditioners, So it's not just about the rent. I got to pay for that conditioner and the shampoos on that particular client. So how do I filter all of that in order to come up with being able to cover that cost,
Hmm.
right? So when you're kind of visiting what kind of space that you want to be in, you got to take in consideration the lights, the shampoo, the washing, the cleaning of the towels. I mean, there's so many things that actually go into that charge. And yeah, you also have the competition of salons around you, but at the end of the day, if you're able to sit down, especially before business, you're able to see if you can afford to do this. You may not be able to do this space right now. You may need to go and rent a booth for a little bit, or you may need to change your basement around and turn it into a salon because you're already paying the mortgage on that house. And, we'll be able to kind of do some things for, minimizing the cost. So by actually sitting down with the accountant or just kind of investigating, is going to allow us to be able to understand what is going to take, right, to be able to be successful and not be in a place where it causes you stress. I mean, business is stressful anyway because every day it's
Right.
hard work. And I don't know whoever thought getting into business it wouldn't be, but you have to constantly reinvent yourself. And if you're going, let me just kind of go off a little bit, but when you go to the bank, say we need money from the bank, if you don't have any numbers, how is the bank going to know that you have the capacity to even give them their money back when you borrow it,
Hmm.
right? And even with that, you still have to understand how to filter that into it because banks don't loan money for free.
Right.
So it's just more about being able to do your homework, being able to really solicit help of people who's already in business, who understands the numbers and things. So hire folks to do this. You may, people don't want to give up the money for that, but to make money, you have to use your money. And so how do we help people to understand their total picture around those things? So they really will benefit by having a team of people to be able to help. Mentors are like the best thing ever if they can do that. Um, if it's anything like the community that I live in, we have all kinds of business service centers at the state level as well as our local areas that also help. And then it's just people themselves who are willing to have these kind of conversations. No matter whether it doesn't matter what industry you're in, because business is business.
Hmm.
Um, the bottom line is to make a profit. The bottom line is to take care of everything, right? So it doesn't matter. So if you're able to talk to anyone about it, that's going to be really helpful for us.
Yeah, yeah. So much good stuff in there. It's like that's a lot to unpack. It's like you were getting to or mentioning like the break even point. And I know there's like different language that we use or different terminology or what have you
Mhm.
that we may not, always understand. So can you tell us like, with the break even point and I think you're kind of even feeding into some of the things on pricing. So it's like we'd love to dive into that. But what exactly is the break even point that we should be looking for?
Right. So bottom line is if you're taking in money and all of it goes out, that's a break even.
Okay.
I,
That
I
breaks it down.
here are my expenses, and and it's understanding that, and with that comes some other parts of that equation, because it's like, how many people do I need to do that? What kind of services do I need to do that? In my salon, am I also counting revenue for selling product? Am I carrying an inventory? Am I doing eyelashes and some other things? So understanding your different revenue streams and understanding what it costs you to do those services. Those services are revenue streams. And so with that, you have to at least be able to break even in that manner to keep the shop open. Because if you're constantly having to dig into your pocket, or you may not even have that kind of a pocket, you're not going to last long. You're not going to last long at all. And when you're actually kind of managing that process, you've got to understand strategies to be able to help you at least cover your costs. And if you're not going to be able to cover your costs, you really should just not do the business. And I know that's easier said than done for me, but at the end of the day, why would I continue in something that again, we talked about that hole, that we're just digging the hole that's going nowhere. And, you want to be able to, pull yourself out. So you may have savings that can fill the gap for a little while, but understand, when is it going to start kind of weaning, where the business is taking care of itself. And sometimes it takes years, without a plan. I mean, you can cut those years back if you have a plan, but at the end of the day, you really want to understand where you are. And in understanding where you are, again, is spending time with your money. I like saying that.
Yeah, I like that. That's definitely a fun way to look at it. It's like, okay, well, money and I are going to go hang out. So,
Yeah, right. At least once a month, I say, sit back and pay attention to the bank statements. And it's funny, but it's not funny. There's many businesses that use their bank statements as their financial statements.
hmm. So what's
And
the danger in that?
that is not a good idea at all. In that, and then there's businesses that commingle personal with the business.
hmm
And so how are we going to figure out what your numbers are if we can't tell, whether, this is for business or whether it's for personal? How do we figure out what your numbers are in that respect? So if that's how you have to operate, then you really need to spend time with a bookkeeper or an accountant to tease that stuff out. Because I mean, let's do a reality here. It's like, that's how people operate. I mean, that's their lives. So that doesn't mean that we can't work to change the behavior, but let's work with what you have. And so in that, you spend time with me, and then we actually go through, and you just simply on your bank statement say, okay, this was product, this was cloth or towels. No, I didn't buy those towels for the house. I bought the towels for the salon. And then we go through and start teasing that information out, but with the intent to change the behavior. So that way you're able to be a little bit more successful, because again, we want to be able to tell the story about what's going on in your business, and the numbers is going to tell that story.
hmm
A lot of times when people want, after so many years, they'll say, Larcina, I need financial statements. I'm getting ready to buy a house. Yeah. We've been carrying a loss for the past couple of years or so.
hmm
So what story are we going to tell the bank? And so with those understandings, folks need to know that you have to have healthy financials in order to be able to know your future plans. So if I'm carrying a loss for 3 years and now I'm going to the mortgage company, first it's like, where did you even think you could, if you plan on using the business? Where did that idea come from? And sometimes those are relationships, husband and wife, where the husband has been working, he's making enough, but he needs a little more support around being able to meet the mortgage that they want to go after. And so then now it's time for the wife to present. And men own salons too, so I'm not being, one way about it. But now she has to come up with financials, and she can't do it, you know. And so we have to understand, by planning, like you talked a little bit before, planning is going to be the best thing for preventative, as well as being able to support whatever your future goals are. because I'm sure people have aspirations to do that, but we have to make sure that we help you be in a position to accomplish what your goal is. That makes sense around that.
Right. Okay. And that's kind of starting ahead of time before it's like, okay, in the next couple of years, I want to buy a house. And so we
Yes.
start to make sure that everything makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of that story
Right.
for
Right. For sure.
that goal.
Right. And even when you play everything out, where do you want your business to go? You know,
Mhm.
is it a legacy thing? Is it something that you want to leave the family, or are you just hanging out as a hobby?
Mhm.
And so and depending on how well you do far as your bottom line is concerned, the IRS is going to help you determine whether it's a hobby or not. Because after 3 years, 4 years or so of carrying a loss consecutively, they can go back to all those years and say, you know what, you weren't serious. All those deductions that you've taken against that income, we're not going to count it anymore.
Wow.
And that's a real situation that the IRS can do. And so again, you really want to be in business to do business. And how I kind of share with individuals is to um, run your business like you want to sell it.
Mm.
And so if I want to sell my business, I want to get the best top dollar I can possibly get. So in order to do that, I have to show these folks that I have it. I mean, the business is doing the business. So if I run with that in mind, then more than likely I'm going to build up strategies and things to make sure I can get a good penny. If I'm able to sell it for that, that means I'm getting that at this time, right? That means it's coming into my household at this juncture. So if you change the mindset about what am I doing, and where do I want to go with this, then you'll be able to once you sit down with monthly or however often, pay attention, you'll be able to be a much, much, much more successful at, whatever it is that you want to do. Because eventually, you're going to get tired. You're not going to want to do this anymore. So what are you going to do? Are you going to pass it on to someone else, or are you going to sell it? And let's
Mm.
plan for selling. And that way everybody wins.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's a really good question, that mindset shift of, it's like if I were running this business in, expectation that I would sell it, what would I need to put in place and what
Mhm.
needs to happen? And
Yeah,
yeah, that's a really good question.
good.
Yeah. So let's kind of dive, I guess, over to the side with the pricing. Like, how do we price our services? That's something I work with people on, but I definitely would love to know what you, from the money standpoint,
Mhm.
how that is seen in your arena.
Right. So in order to operate the business, there are so many variables that we have to take in consideration that we forget. And one that I'm going to put at the top of my head is going to be your intellectual or skill property. We do not put a value on that at all. And that minimally should be profit. And I'll explain that in a little bit. But what you have to know is, what does it take to operate, or the expenses to do a particular service? So in that, it's not only, again, the product or the towel that had to get laundered, the electricity that had to turn the light on in order to even see, to even do whatever it is that you're doing at the bowl of the sink, that's washing here, the water that's coming through that. So we minimally need to pull all of the expenses of that business together, pull in all the product that it takes to provide, because remember, there's different services too. And
Hmm.
so we need to understand, what does it take, what are the sources to provide this particular service. And so once we're sitting down and we can actually see that, I mean, you really can't, we can't go crazy with the fact that it takes 3 ounces of the 16-ounce bottle of shampoo at 3 cents an ounce and all that kind of thing. But you do know that how many bottles you went through this week, and you had 20 people,
Hmm.
right? You do know that, geez, this is December, and my light bill is different than July, right? So, and you do know that, you know, you only service so many people for nails, you know, and they like this particular color, but that color is more expensive than the other colors, you know. So again, what I'm sharing with you, in order to know what your pricing is, you have to spend time and keeping that information. So how do you keep that information? You don't have to do it in some big you know, drawn out accounting software or anything. What you do is you can sit down with a good old fashioned legal size piece of paper and say, look, I used 2 bottles of such and such today or this week, and kind of, I call it, what I usually have clients do, and this is not just for salons, it's for all my businesses. Um, I actually have them diary, actually diary of like 2 weeks, diary a month, just sitting down for as much as they can remember. Because you're not going to, you know, you're busy, you're trying to run a business here, but to diary what they used. And then we can see how much it cost. Diary, how many people did they service? What did they provide those services for? Which one of these products did you do that with? And it's not, like I said, it's not some elaborate fill in, you know, this chart, you know, it's just simply saying, okay, I serviced 2 people and I did rod sets today, you know, and for that rod set, I had to shampoo, you know, someone with long hair. So they had to have, you know, how many washes. And once we do that, it gives them a sense to be able to even understand the operations of their business. They probably didn't even realize, because they're so robotic and so good at what they do, they don't even know what they do half the time. They just do it. It's like getting in the car for salon owners. They just, you know, string the thing up and call it a day. And so it also helps you understand your industry, understand your business, understand many different things. But so as we're looking at those numbers, we're going to be able to say, okay, minimally, this is what I have to charge, because if I have to open the door for today, or if I have to open the door for this week, this is how much I see that happens on my average week on how much I need to be able to come up with. And it may not be any profit in that, but the profit that's on top of the numbers of the expenses is going to be your labor. Because
talk to us about that a little deeper. Like you mentioned, it being kind of intellectual property and our labor, and I know firsthand that we don't value that a lot of times.
no, we don't. And so, you know, again, and one day you'll meet her. Kim Bardot is she's my partner in crime, but she's also my stylist, and she's been in business for over 30 something years. So like today, she opened up the door, right, for me. And she didn't have any other folks. So, but she does know that she said, okay, you know what? I have to bring somebody else in since I'm open to help cover the light bill for this situation today, right? But Kim has a way of rod setting my hair different than someone else ever has done. She also has her product. She makes it herself. So I may think I can go somewhere else and get this rod set. And we've had, and I say she's had clients to do that, because of course she's pricing it accordingly to her expertise. But someone looks at me and say, okay, I can go get that done somewhere else, you know, for half the price that Kim wants to do it for. But then they end up coming back to Kim because they look like the chia pet in a few days. And I was one of them, so I know. So my point is that, you know, whatever premium price that she wants to charge, I know it's because she is good. You know, I know that I can only get it there. My rod sets last anywhere for 6 weeks. And so all of those things is a personal trade of hers that has value. And so if you don't teach people that you're valuable, then they're not going to treat you with value. And that's what I mean. And so that should be your profit, lack of a better word, is once you're knowing what your expenses are, but then now you're going to put your twist on it, because now you're going to get me. You're going to get all that I've learned. You're going to get all that I know. and you're going to get my trial and error to make everything good that I put a time in to make sure you're okay. Because she's constantly, she knows, look, don't be taking that comb and combing my head too hard because I'll cry. You know, so she's figuring out how to make my visit with her much easier. So all that time, you guys, not you guys, but all that time that people spend with making sure their client is okay, that doesn't add value to it. And we all have heard this before. Time is money.
Right.
And so with that, if you have that understanding, then you know that your charges, your pricing should take that in consideration. That's the food. That's the money that's going to take to bring the food home. Right. That's going to be the part that buys the house. That's going to be the part that, whatever vacations or colleges or retirement, that's going to be where you should be able to enhance your bottom line. So that way you can take care of your family and run a business at the same time. So it's placing a value on what you know. And I'm not going to sit here and act as if I have been like really good at this. Because for a long time it was, no, they're not going to pay. Oh no, if I charge this, and get sick to my stomach sometimes, like, oh my goodness, that's going to come up to whatever pricing, and they're not going to want to pay that, and I'm stressing. But yet, I got this something I got my eye on, and I can't get it because I won't charge what I'm supposed to be charging. Now the individual has gotten all of me, everything, my college education, my membership organizations, they got my everything, my staff, everything. And yet I'm not, I'm afraid to charge for it. And they're fine. And most of the people has said to me in the past, that's all you're going to charge? So I had to learn that the more, not so much as the more, has nothing to do with more or less. It's about the value of what I'm adding into a person's life. And what is that worth?
Right.
What are you doing to help that? So if I'm able to get what I'm worth, then I sure enough should be adding worth to you, right? When you walk out of that salon, you've gotten all that I have, and you're able to look wonderful and, sustain a style that's going to be with you because I was good at it. And people, we shortchange people on that mindset. We just think that they don't. I don't know where we're getting it from. But at the end of the day, I do believe that people want to pay for value. You just got to say what it is. Don't be afraid of it. You agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing you shared about the clients saying, like, is that all of, that you're going to charge? And it's like, those are clues. It's like
big time clues. Yeah. Those for sure.
And in our industry, sometimes you'll get big tips because people are like, I feel almost like I'm stealing.
Right.
I'm getting so much value, and this is all you're charging. I have to give you a little bit more, and and sometimes a lot more. Like another clue, raise your price.
Right. And I remember someone, I'm going to say it was Dr. Kellogg. She mentioned that people were concerned about competing against other salon owners around pricing. And so with that, be confident about your information. Know what you know. I'm not, you don't need to be priced way out. Now, come on now. Let's not, you might be that good, but where are you in that industry, and who's your clientele? We got to understand who that is. But someone else's prices does not have anything to do with you.
Exactly.
Again, if you're starting to do that and be concerned about that, then you should reevaluate what you're doing as far as offerings is concerned. Because obviously you're not feeling deserving of something that you're charging someone, because have you not gone to classes lately, or, I mean, what is it about the guilt of not being able to charge what you're supposed to charge? So whatever my friend is doing next door, should not have any bearing, because my light bill and my product stuff, my product line is different than your product line. My stuff is a little bit more expensive, or my stuff is a little less expensive. It should not be any competition about that. What it should be is that you know your numbers and you charge accordingly. And you
Mhm.
know what you have to do to be able to sustain your family's life as well as balancing the books.
Yeah.
For your business. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say even like if you're in the same neighborhood as like the person who owns a building that your friend is renting,
Mhm.
they may have been in a situation where they just needed it filled, and so maybe they're getting their rent for $1,000 less a month than you are, and you're trying to compete with their price, and you can't, and you don't even know why they're still in business, and you're like struggling, you know?
Yeah. And, excuse me, and that's the truth about that. You don't know what goes on in my house, my mama used to say.
Right.
You don't know what's going on in here. But you have to know where you stand. You have to spend that time. I mean, it, to be successful, that's like doing, it was someone said that if you don't have anything to shoot for, then you're going to reach it all the time. And so if you don't understand where you are right now, how do you know where you're going?
Hmm.
And it should not be about what my fellow, folks are doing, what my fellow neighbors or what my fellow salon owners are doing. It has nothing to do with them.
Right.
Do you? Don't they say that all the time? Do you? Do you?
You.
Right.
Yep. Love that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like I don't want to leave without us talking about is, it's like we have all been through the last couple years with a lot of, ups and downs in so many different ways. And, from what I've seen and what I'm seeing is like it looks like, there is a recession that's, in process or coming.
Mm-hmm.
And that can sometimes make us hesitate to charge, what we need to charge. All of our supply costs are up, the all of the expenses that we have to take care of within our business are up, but also all of our expenses, putting gas in the car, going to the grocery store, all of those kind of things are up as well. What suggestions would you have for, making sure that we are able to stay in business during
Mm-hmm.
this time and actually still keep taking care of our families while not feeling like we're, somehow, taking advantage of our clients?
Right. So again, you're gonna hear me say this all the time, is really spending time. And what you would do, some of the suggestions are, what services really aren't paying well that you have on the books, that's taking up your time. That well, I'm just using eyebrows for example. I don't get that many eyebrows clients coming in, right? So if I'm able to replace that client with another hair client, that helps me change that revenue around.
Mhm.
Also take a look at, where are you spending your money to operate the business? Am I using something that I can probably use something different that's a little, I don't want to say cheaper, because quality is all about quality.
Mhm.
But where can I cut the fat? It's what you would hear people say in this industry. Where can I, cut back on something? What, is it that I'm opening up the salon on Saturdays? Should I not open on Saturdays? If I don't open on Saturdays, that means that, the electric bill, the water bill is going to be a little less. So you may not have to up your prices. It's more about how you're going to manage your spending. Where can you cut the spending at? And that's a lot of what's going on with families, regardless of what business that you're in, and even in your households.
Mhm.
Where are we spending too much, and can cut back or change what we're doing, so that way we're not, challenged with our quality, but at least we're still able to stay in business. Because I think um, we're going to really need our salon owners during this time to help people feel good. you
Yeah.
know People want to know that, I mean, this is an outlet for a lot of people. And I think we would be doing a disservice if you would be doing a disservice if you don't try to figure out how to stay in business, you know, because people feel good. I mean, it's just something about, getting your hair done and your nails done, and, yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't pay my rent, but my hair is done. It's not, and that's not a negative thing that people normally would say, but if I feel good about myself, I can think a lot better to be able to even do better, for my family and whatever that is. So I think that this is going to be an opportunity for salon owners to really make even more money, right? Because they're going to be able to really kind of show people how to help them, feel good is what I think.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to give that up too much, um, for the most part, and not for the negative part, but for the feel good part. I think that's what's going to happen.
Right. Right. Yes, I think you're so right. And I think they say that in recessions, people actually spend more on little things that make them feel good. And so, even things like a new lipstick or a certain fragrance or something that might be in a hair care product or any of those kind of things. It's like we gravitate toward including the services
Right.
and being taken care of, pampered, and feeling like we just even get a break from life for a
And
little
that's the thing, having that salon be that outlet, you know,
bit.
just to get away from the noise, just to sit under the dryer. I tell you, that's my best napping time.
Hmm.
I tell you, to get a good nap in, when
Right,
you're busy, and just to be able to have that time is really helps with rejuvenating and really, going back at it,
right.
because life is going to be there. But if I can escape for a few moments, let me do that at my salon for a little bit.
Absolutely. And another point of value in terms of what we bring to the table that we need to consider as well.
Yes,
So,
yes, I believe that for sure.
yeah, yeah. Well, this has been so great. Like we talked about pricing. There are some salons that are booth rentals, some salons that are commission, some salons that are looking at the suite model, and certain stylists and what have you are looking at renting suites. How do we kind of determine what we should be charging? Like if we are renting booths or if we are setting up some type of system, how do we know which way to go?
Right. So one of the things that I noticed with the salons is more about um, the community of where the salon is, that helps kind of make that determination, whether booth renting and so on and so forth. So in certain areas, like here where I live, in certain areas, I see the owners tend to hire employees because they have so many chairs, they can't afford to do booth renting because people are not consistent,
Hmm.
and they need to have a certain flow of cash coming through. So they're better off with um, being in charge of managing the services that come through the door, and being able to know that they got the coverage, and so on and so forth. In booth renting, to even know how much you're charging, again, are you going to supply product for them? Or, is booth renting going to be independent? Because a lot of individuals are independent. They're just literally just renting the booth, without using the product of the company. And so when the owner is actually kind of making that determination, they they really need to know what they're providing. If it's just the chair, then what's entailed in that chair rental there, meaning that how much electricity is being passed to that. I mean, you're not going to know that in that manner, but if I got 10 chairs, and my light bill is, or my electric bill is, $100 a month, then I'm saying each chair is pulling 10 $10 that I need to minimally charge for that. Or whatever other use. Mostly it's going to be about the operations part, like the utilities and things of that nature, if you're not providing anything. But to make the determination usually is by the number of chairs, the expense of your overhead on where you are. I got one owner who they have 20 something chairs in that place.
Hmm.
But booth renting works well for them because they brought those individuals with them, and the clientele followed the name, and so they didn't have any problems in their new location for customers coming and finding them. And so it still works well for him. But the other guy who moved to North Carolina, he actually hires them as an employee because it was his brand, it's his
Hmm.
name. So he has to manage the quality.
Okay.
So he can't just have the booth in there because that individual doesn't operate like he does. So he needs to be able to control what's going on in the place. So he hires employees. So there's different factors that we use to make, absent to do the determination around that.
Hmm.
But there's so many other variables depending on what you got going on. Again, in order to even determine what the price is going to be, you have to know what your bottom line is. How is that? Are you part of that number? Meaning, are you bringing in services, or are you totally reliant on all the chairs to be able to cover the cost?
Mhm.
So it's different things, and that you would sit down and just kind of understand how you decide you're going to operate this business, because all the options are good. Now, let me tell you, the IRS would love for you to do the employee thing,
Mhm.
and they tried to push that for years and years and years, because it's a cash business,
Mhm.
meaning that cash coming in, and they can't figure out, how much is coming through. And so they want to make the salon owner the actual responsibility of everybody in the
Mhm.
place. Sometimes that forces people to do employees versus booth renting also. So again, it's going to the variables that you're going to have to take in consideration is going to be about just understanding your industry, what's going on in your community. Do you have what they call Department of Revenue Services agent that's coming around that wants to check your sales tax, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, is he going to make you responsible for all the chairs that don't do the sales tax that's supposed to be doing, that's supposed to be collected? So it's all those different things. It's going to be about how that business is operating. Once you make that determination, then you'll really be able to decide on which one's going to work for you.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's worthwhile to sit down with a professional like yourself and really kind of flush out, what needs to happen, and
Right.
what's going to be in your best interest, like you say, making that longer term plan,
Hmm.
what you're trying to get to. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, has been so enlightening. It's like you really helped us to I think in a sense make friends with our money.
Oh, yes, yes.
Talking
Spend
about spending
time.
time with it.
Spend time for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So how can we contact you? And do you work, with people just in your area or virtually? How does that part work?
So I am a virtual slash in office business. I've been in business for over 30 something years. And I have clients all over the country and even in Cabo, not just salon owners. I work with, like you mentioned at the beginning, nonprofits. I work with retail companies. I've unions. We do bookkeeping for just anyone that needs our services in that manner. Our specialty, we do a lot with trust clients. We actually teach people how to keep their money, how to protect their assets. We help with legacy building. We do everything that, because you are doing what you need to do, we want to make sure that your family generationally benefits from all the hard work that you actually put into this. And so I'm located physically in Connecticut, New Haven, Connecticut. But again, we have virtual processes in place where we're doing bookkeeping through different online. We don't just do one specific online accounting software. We use several. We tend to help the client know what's best for them. Clients are very participatory in the process. It's not just Larcina knowing what's going on in their lives. They also are very involved in that. And I have a wonderful staff, and we have great communication lines. So there's no reason why you can't ever get us in any manner to ask a question through our business portal, or even just calling us on the phone. But to get us, my name of my company is Carrington Financial Services, LLC. And the number to reach us at is 475-238-8298. And my wonderful, wonderful assistant, Ika Burgess, I had to say her name because she's so good. Oh, she's so good. But Ika or any of the other staff members can actually help you. Ika or Julia Bowles will actually answer the call and be able to direct you. And they're very informed about how to get started and how we onboard clients, and the services that we actually have.
Wow. Well, that's incredible. It's like we love that you're virtual and love that you have great people, on your team that can help us. It's like her information is scrolling across the bottom. So definitely, if you didn't catch it when she said the phone number, it's there. And definitely reach out. It's like we really want to make an impact in our community and in our industry to make things better and
Yes.
more profitable. How about that?
That's a great word.
Yes, yes. So again, we've been here with Larcina, Carrington Wynn, and my name is Mickey Wright. I'm with Beauty Superstars Talk and beautysuperstars.com. You can follow us there at beautysuperstars.com, and that's stars with an S on the end, or you can see us for this podcast, which is really more than a podcast, but we are actually here to encourage Black excellence, encourage entrepreneurship, and to preserve our beautiful history of the Black beauty industry. And so you can follow us on YouTube /Mickey Wright, which is just MIKI, just one I mean, MIKI, just one I, a K, and another I. I get all kinds of other initials and letters in there, but and Wright, WRIGHT. So we want to thank you so much for everything that you shared with us today, Marcina. This has been, like I said, very enlightening and very much making it so that we can digest and
Yeah,
not feel, so much anxiety and fear around our numbers. So
great.
really, really appreciate you. Is
Uh,
there any
Thank you
last
for having.
words of advice you'd like to share with us?
Just really consider building your team before you're jumping in. If you're already in, start the team. You start wherever you are. Just go ahead and get started. And at the end of the day, we're hoping that you're wanting to build something for a legacy. And succession planning and all of that is real important because we really need these businesses to help with the economy. So whichever way we can contribute, we're definitely here there to support that.
Wonderful. We so appreciate you. So thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you everyone for joining us today. We appreciate it, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. Take great care and keep reaching for the stars.